Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation of a freelance project that I've worked on called Rado the Viking. This is basically a project I've been working on for a year, or just under a year. The idea behind it was to create a Viking character based on the person who made the commission, my friend Rado. I used his likeness, the way the Viking looks, his features, but most of it is imaginary, as in the clothes and the troll head and everything that you're going to see. I just wanted to present the workflow and the behind the scenes of developing this kind of a project. I'm gonna start off by showing you the early process of sculpting the features of my friend Rado. So basically I already had a base mesh created a year ago, a base mesh of a male character. So I just used it to resculpt the features and the Viking, because this would be much easier for me rather than starting from a sphere, which I usually do for these kind of projects. But since I developed this base mesh myself, I don't think I'm skipping like any part of the process. And plus, the retopology of the actual model would make it much easier for me to create some of the future accessories that you're going to see in the character. So in the background you're going to see me sculpting through the features, mainly the face of the character, but later on you're going to see some of the body development and early assets for the character. While this is going on, I'm going to be talking about more of the project and behind the scenes. So it was really important to look from all angles when I was sculpting the character. I had Rado take pictures of himself from various angles, from top-down view, bottom view, side view, just so I can get his likeness as close as possible. But I didn't want to go overboard with the details, because keep in mind this was going to be a 3D print, which was going to be 25 centimeters big. So some of the details like skin pores and stuff like that aren't going to be visible. So I didn't really pay that much attention to that. I kind of just wanted to focus on the likeness of the character and the big shapes, the primary shapes. Initially I wanted to start off by making a neutral expression, because this would make it look more like Rado himself. But later on you'll see me shifting the expression a bit, making it a bit more scowled and angry looking, which I think kind of brings a more of a specific badass emotion, if you want to call it that, to the sculpture itself. Here you can see me just blocking out the beard really quickly so I get an idea of the overall silhouette and shape of the head. So I had to go back in and out to fix all of the features of the sculpture. It's important to zoom in and zoom out of your sculpture, because you don't want to get too comfortable from one point of view, and like when you zoom out it doesn't really look right. So I always made sure to look at it from all angles, from different points of view. Because I have a 3D printer, basically my idea behind this was to create the 3D sculpture in ZBrush, and afterwards split it in Blender, transfer it to Cura, I think it was the program that I used to prepare the STL files for my printer to print. And I had to print it out in different sections, because it would have taken much longer to print out the model if it was one big solid piece. So I had to basically slice it into different parts and glue it together, and add a putty to kind of hide the seams. Here you can see me starting to block out some of the shapes for the clothes. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach clothes or accessory sculpting. I'm sure there's much easier ones than the extracting method that I use, but this is something I'm used to and was going to be much faster than trying to figure out a different method. This isn't the final look of the character in terms of clothing. This was just a block out that I made quickly so I can then make a render of, and in Photoshop I was going to make different concepts of the model, different clothes, different color schemes. So this was the render that I did of just the main block out of the character's outfit, which I then brought into Photoshop and made thumbnail outfits of. And after speaking to my client, we communicated which outfit would be best. Basically, the idea behind it was to take inspiration from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because Rado is a huge fan of the game. So he wanted to implement that kind of a look and feel to this project as well. So here is the final outfit design and some of the weapons and axes designs that you can see in the middle. And on the right you can see quick thumbnails of pose ideas or dioramas, if you want to call it that. So what I did afterwards was, before I brought the character back into ZBrush, I instead brought it into Blender. And the reason why I used that specific base mesh of the male character is because I already had like a simple character rig developed in Blender for that character, which meant that I wouldn't need to start posing from scratch or anything. I could just easily bend these joints using the animation controllers to pose the character. And over here I will show you quickly different poses from the different concepts from the previous page. The final pose that we figured out that we wanted to go with was this one. Basically, we had the idea of implementing Norse mythology and Norse mythology creatures into the model itself. So we wanted to push it a bit more, and we wanted to add a frost troll's head in the scene. This was important because it would add another interesting like expression and face into the 3D print, but also it would tell a story, because our character would be damaged and bloodied, and would basically imply that he just went through a battle with this creature and won it. So after bringing it into ZBrush, I created all the assets from the design stage and I refined them, added some details, and this is the final look of the character that we went with. I'll give you a closer look. Keep in mind there's not many details in terms of pores and fibers and stuff like that in the clothes and in the skin, because none of that was going to be visible in the actual 3D print, so there was no point in actually sculpting that and wasting time. I also created the dagger that the character was going to be using, some other assets as well, the axe, the horn behind his belt, but I also made a quick base mesh of the troll head over here, as you can see, which was later modified even more. And this was the final look of the actual 3D sculpture. I had to pose the character, like I said, add some more details and reposition some assets like the horn in the back. I had to relax a lot of the mesh in certain areas because the mesh was deforming incorrectly when I added the pose. And here you can see the final look of the troll head with multiple scars, a chopped ear, and the base was basically a rocky environment where the head was laid on. The actual rim of the base was, the idea behind was to resemble maybe a shield or some kind of an armband, hence the details on it. So what I had to do afterwards was basically bring the character in the mesh itself into Blender and split it into parts, which I did by using planes and booleans. And over here you can see the different parts being split. All of these parts were going to be printed and glued together. And the method I was using was I made like a block that was extruding and a block that was indented inside of the other part of the model, which can then slot into place. And once glued, I would have to use a putty to hide the seam, sand it and repaint it. Here you can see some videos of the printing process, the early stages. One of the funnest parts of 3D printing your own models is feel and to see the actual 3D model in your hands. And it's an actual physical object, it's not just a virtual image. In this image you can see the final 3D render along with the primed glued 3D model. And afterwards you can see a step-by-step process of my hand-painted model. I was using various types of acrylic paint for models and miniatures to create the details, different techniques and different methods. I use different varnishes to simulate glossiness and a rougher feeling or surface for the model itself. I was quite happy with the bloody details on the character's weapons, his clothing, the actual head of the troll, along with the blood splatter on the floor and how it's bleeding through the actual base, kind of breaking the fourth wall. And I also was quite happy with the foliage that I added to the actual model, which was the first time I was doing anything like this, and although it was quite tricky and I need to practice it more, it was really fun to make, and I'm happy that it balances out the material a bit more of the actual model. Instead of just having everything plasticky, there's something that simulates foliage. The model is about 25 centimeters tall, and you can see a coin for comparison. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and let me know your thoughts, what you think about this project. Do you like the model? Would you like to see more like this? Thank you, and catch you guys next time. Bye.